So I'm excited that I get to be here with you today, Brandon, that we get to have this great conversation about the collaboration that we're about to embark on. And so, first, let me formally introduce you. Brandon Parks, Parks Philanthropy, is the founder, co founder, and CEO. And I'm just really excited about the work that we've had a chance to most recently do in collaborating around a learning cohort and trying to provide services to small to mid-sized organizations. In that particular instance, those were organizing organizations who are doing a lot of movement building. And the work we're embarking on allows us to work with small to mid-sized organizations from across the country, doing a variety of work. And we're looking to philanthropic partners who are interested in catalyzing that work further. And so it's wonderful getting to work with both Raven Group and S. Daniels Consulting, but also with Parks Philanthropy. And it's just been so great getting to know your team, you, and the incredible work that you all are doing. And I'm so glad that you could join me today to talk a little bit more about that work in depth. So thank you for being here.
No, thank you. Just really appreciate the opportunity. And like you mentioned, have really appreciated just getting to know you and your team and the valuable work that you're doing in the sector as well. So, really excited for this collaboration to extend both of our work towards nonprofit organizations nationally.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting. Let's talk about your work. I think that people know fundraising, they know development, they know how important it is. But I'd love if you talk a little bit about the why you all decided to embark on this work 5 years ago, and really some of what you've been learning in this moment and what you all have been helping nonprofits to be able to do in this moment.
Definitely, really good question. So, Parks Philanthropy was actually founded in the midst of the pandemic. So, essentially, during that time, we just saw just a really great need in the nonprofit sector specifically to really meet the moment, to really kind of come together to really understand digital transformation. How do you bring your programmatic work into a digital space? How do you fundraise when you're not necessarily able to meet donors in meeting spaces, for example, or have that in person interaction, for instance? To really just support overall development issues. And at the same time, I personally had worked at a philanthropic consulting firm and was able to work with a lot of seasoned professionals, but really realized that there was kind of a gap for just new, innovative, just different, nuanced space to really meet the moment, not only that COVID had provided, but also just the evolution of the nonprofit space technology as well. So that's when kind of the idea of Parks Philanthropy came about. Really just had a strong network of social impact practitioners, nonprofit fundraisers, strategic planners, for instance, in my own network that I was able to bring together to really support nonprofit organizations with not only expert support, but also customized support as well to really meet them where they are. And throughout the last 5 years, it's definitely been an amazing journey. Really been able to support a certain amount of nonprofit organizations across the nation, from youth development to education, for example, to environment, all of the above, to really touch just different aspects of impact. And really, like I mentioned, it's kind of the team that really I feel like is what differentiates us and really just keeps me going. Just such an amazing team of just mission driven experts in the space that were able to really just leverage their expertise towards our nonprofit clients that really kind of changes the game and provides that value add. So we're looking forward to just this journey with you to really be able to provide these amazing organizations that are doing the impactful work with value support that they need to really carry on their mission.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And talk about that work. What does that look like? And you said, you wanted to be able to change the game and to innovate around the idea that you could do digital. You had to do it digitally, electronically now. So much of what we were used to doing in person, and even beyond now that we're through the height of COVID, still it's something that's relevant. It's relevant in this moment as our world keeps changing, the landscape keeps changing. Give me an example of a current project you all might be doing with a nonprofit and talk a little bit about the tools that you're using. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so kind of to also mention how, meeting the moment outside of COVID, how the nonprofit sector and technology have been perpetually have been going through an evolution. It's interesting with the question because one of our clients, a nonprofit organization here in New York City, really focused are headquartered in the Bronx, which supplies mental health services towards brown and black students across public schools, across the five boroughs. Essentially, we've been not only working with them with fundraising naturally and development, truly helping them identify new prospects and donors donors to diversify their fundraising streams, specifically in this time when they do have a lot of federal funding, for instance, which is kind of sometimes up in the air. Really taking a look at the strategy to how they identify not only new foundations, institutions to support their work, but individuals as well that have that giving capacity and also that alignment and synergy to the work. But essentially, a part of our strategic planning process with them last year was really to understand how we can use AI as a tool to really streamline efficiencies, not only as an organization, but specifically with our fundraising efforts. So essentially, I know that there's, some debate on kind of when and how to use AI ethically, for example, specifically when a social conscious space. There's different AI tools like not only ChatGPT, but Anthropic's new AI tool Cloud, which is a social responsible AI that has safeguards, for instance. But really kind of going through and navigating how can we use certain tools to support prospecting? How can we support certain tools with donor meetings, for example, that really uses the application of AI to save not only time, but also just save energy across our team. Basically creating not only a strategy, but basically helping them implement certain tools within the AI landscape that they can utilize for the executive team and leadership team specifically to really just streamline a lot of operations that were taking a lot of time and energy from them as related to the organization and to the development. And really being able to focus much more so on those engagements with donors and really being able to now focus their time and energy to really creating authentic relationships rather than kind of getting into weeds of the operations.
Wow, it's exciting. I know that there's so many people, I was talking with Sonia about evaluation and the ways in which she's tried to show people that change is just a natural part of the process. Telling the story is what's most important. And you all are doing that, telling the story through numbers. When I talked with the Raven Group and talking with Sunil about public policy and Brad talking about strategic communications, what I see is really the synergy between all of us in our work is we're trying to help people tell their stories better. So we're trying to help them to understand how they can do their work better. And so I know that some people are worried about the technology and AI, but I really appreciate the ways in which you are looking to do it responsibly and you're trying to talk about it more about streamlining. It's not about it takes away this element of humanity and connectedness. You're saying I want to make more time for that. So really appreciate that you're using those tools and trying to show people how to use those tools well. One of those things I also think about, I do a lot of writing, thinking, talking about helping teams really meet this moment also around generational leadership and around that we've got Gen Z in the workforce. And I've, said to many people, we've got 17 million Gen Zers that entered the workforce in 2023. It's expected there'll be about 30% of our workforce in just a few short years, in 5 years. And I wonder how you all are thinking about leadership, development of new leaders, particularly around fundraising and telling that story about fundraising as you all are working not only with the nonprofits you work with, the clients you work with, but I imagine even on your own team. How are you all talking about leadership, talking about the newest entrants into the workforce, how we continue to build young leaders because we need everyone to be here doing this work. This is so important, and we need everybody available for this work.
I could not agree more. And definitely as it relates to the next generation of leaders in the philanthropic space, I couldn't agree more that there honestly, I personally believe that there even needs to be more outlets and more resources to really empower the next generation to kind of get into philanthropy. I feel like from my personal network, for instance, a lot of people who have even gotten into development, they love the nonprofit work, but they kind of almost happenstance kind of got into development, or they, knew that they were good kind of at sales or relationship building, but didn't even know development and nonprofit fundraising was even a thing. And even this new generation, I believe that they're more socially conscious. They're more so looking for social impact roles and positions, which is honestly kind of different from when I grew up. When I grew up, I was the odd one out, kind of not wanting to play soccer and being the president of Students of Service or Amnesty International, for example. When I told my friends I was, having an internship at Toyota in their corporate philanthropy department, they're like, "What? You can mix philanthropy and corporations? I don't understand what you're talking about." um, but now I feel like with this generation, it's interesting because I feel like they actually are led by their purpose and they're led by their impact, for instance. And at least for us, when it comes to leadership training, we are all about that in kind of two different facets. One, our internship program is kind of one of the one of the biggest aspects of Parks Philanthropy that really kind of not only supports the organization, but really provides the next generation with the tools and resources they need to really thrive in a nonprofit consulting industry. By being able to provide them with experience working hand in hand with our consultants, it provides them direct experience of being a consultant and working with nonprofit organizations that not only are have a national focus, but really align with their interests specifically. They're able to learn the kind of the ins and outs from underneath the belt of strategic planning, of fundraising, development, while working with their senior leaders. And also as it relates to our even our consultant base, for example, we have senior consultants and associate consultants. And associate consultants are typically in that genre, like you mentioned, almost next generation leaders, for example, individuals who, have our early stage kind of in their career, and we pair them with their senior consultants. So we provide them not only with that mentorship, but then provide them with that experience to really learn and grow alongside a senior expert, to really just provide them with that intergenerational community as well, an interexperiential community as well, to really provide them with that outlet, which I think is really valuable. And yeah, I mean, it's been amazing, honestly, to see over the last 5 years the places that our interns have been able to go, working from impact investing to being, development associates to working at CSR for top Fortune 500 companies after working at Parks Philanthropy, and really learning and hearing from them how valuable that internship really was to kind of just not only provide them more experience in trying to learn and understand development specifically, nonprofit development and fundraising, but just philanthropy at large and understanding the different avenues and spaces, even nonprofit consulting, for example, as a field they can then land.
That is so wonderful. Bravo to you and your team. I think about all the ways in which we can contribute, and I think people miss that there are these ways we can directly teach. We should be guiding, we should be providing mentorship, and I think in some ways that can feel like it's something that's of, days gone by because people assume that now that we're doing so much hybrid or virtual that it's almost impossible. And I'm so glad that you all have found ways to be able to do that, to integrate it. It is so important to give people hands-on experience, and that's never going to go out of style. So I am so glad that you all have done that. And to your earlier point about people don't know what development is, and I would say even more specifically how overwhelmingly there are times when people don't know that people of color know development or are part of development. It's been so many times that there people assumed that there were only a certain group who got a chance to have these conversations about money, about fundraising. And so we need to support that everyone is a part of these conversations. So again, regardless of whether age, regardless of their background, historically, whether they've been part of fundraising or not, we need everybody at this table doing this work. So bravo to you all for making this way, making this space, and the mentorship. Again, never going to go out of style. So I'm thankful for that. Thankful.
Never gonna go out of style, and thank you, and yeah, I mean, I personally just was able to have just really amazing mentors just throughout my professional career that really kind of paved the way in my career path in philanthropy and nonprofit fundraising and development. I was just lucky to have just really strong, not only leaders, but also leaders of color in my circle that really provided me that representation of individuals that I could then step into their shoes and that I actually looked up to. And I think that is just so important for us to be able to provide that mentorship because we all have experiences and we all have just a different history and background that can be valuable from learning from somebody else or being able to teach that to somebody else. So I'm always just such a big proponent of just mentorship at large.
That's right. And everybody needs it. Talk to me a little bit as a final remarks. I'd love to just hear what do you think some of the trends are that you and your team are seeing with regard to development, fundraising, advancement, and certainly we are in a moment, and we are seeing that so much is happening that is negatively impacting organizations of all types, whether it's universities, whether it's small, mid-sized nonprofits. We're seeing institutions having to figure out new ways forward based on our political and societal landscape currently in the U.S. I wonder what other trends that you all are seeing or ways that you're listening out for those trends or supporting. What's there? What else are we know is happening or you see percolating beyond obviously this very critically important moment in time that is making us rethink so many things.
Yeah, really strong question. And I think my answer to that question would honestly be the way that nonprofit leaders are showing up today. I think leadership today is just being shaped by like greater awareness of social and emotional well-being, and I feel like I see a growing trend of just leaders who are just more transparent, empathetic, and trauma informed rather than kind of separating their values from their work. Many leaders are like bringing their full selves, especially those from historically excluded communities, into their leadership spaces. And I feel like this shift is kind of redefining what it means to be effective. Like things like resilience, authenticity, adaptability, for example, are all just things now that I feel like are just as important as technical skills to really evolve an organization and be a good leader. For me, I know there's can be different debates of what makes a good leader or what is a leader, for instance. But for me, I feel like a good leader is somebody also who's able to uplift people and really connect with individuals and their team to really elevate them, which kind of goes into our thought process about mentorship, for example, or the next generation, for instance. And I feel like even with the next generation, they really not only they don't assume this, but they are more advantageous of making sure that their leaders are empathetic and really can meet them in the moment and really understand where they're coming from, for instance, which I feel like is the cause of the shift in overall leadership that is creating this need for leaders to come more authentically and more empathetically to honestly be a solid leader in today's day and age.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And thank you and your team for the incredible work that you're doing to support organizations and leaders. And really excited about the collaboration between Tammy Dowley-Blackman Group and Rabin Group and Parks Philanthropy and S. Daniels Consultant. I just think there's so much here. There's so much value to what we're all trying to bring and do, and so much need, frankly. I wish that there wasn't the need, but the reality is that the need is here, and the need actually has only gotten greater given what our moment in time is now. So, again, just thank you all for the work. Thank you for the ways in which you are showing up and showing leadership and for the collaboration. I look forward to it.